Hello everyone and welcome to our channel, and today I'll be reading a multi-character listener by me. So let's get into it. Scaramouche. Scaramouche would not have been able to see the belly piercing unless he was able to see her belly, and that alone was something that made him very, very embarrassed and shy. He couldn't help but stare. You were trying to draw his attention with it. Or maybe he was just drawn to it naturally. He would never know. But the piercing, shouldn't you have warned him about it first? He had no idea, and for a while he just sat there, anxious and fidgeting, unsure of what to do. But then, he finally mustered up the courage to talk. Wyan, isn't this a little bit too much? I mean, it's too revealing, and the piercing. What's so wrong about it? There's nothing wrong about it, I just... Hey, do you want to touch it, Scara? And though he pales at first, then goes bright red, he nods. And when you let him put a hand to your belly button, where your piercing was, he blushes even brighter. But he can't help but just look at it and keep feeling it with his hand. And then he just pouts, looking away. Fine, it's not so bad, I guess. And that's when he knew he really liked it. Venti would actually be enthusiastic about you getting one. He'd like it. It's new, adventurous, and it's very, very hot. Because as soon as he sees you with it, he's blushing. But he asks you if you could touch it. And of course, with you being you, you're unable to say no to him. And you lift up your shirt a little bit, showing him the piercing, and letting him hold out his hand and touch it. You smile, watching him. So, what do you think? Is it worth it? Oh, it's more than worth it, Ryan, he said, leaning in and pressing a soft kiss to your belly. He loved you, and it was truly obvious with how much he welcomed the idea, though it was pretty new. Honestly, you would look pretty with anything in his eyes. But this is quite amazing. Even he would have to admit that. Xiao, Xiao was utterly in love with you. So even though the idea felt a little bit weird at first, he liked it and didn't object to it too much. And when you just sat in front of him with that tiny shirt, he couldn't help but feel like his throat was running dry. And he just needed a moment to collect his own thoughts and himself because, well, that was a lot to handle for him. And when you saw him like that, you couldn't help but chuckle, sitting next to him and ruffling his hair. What do you think about it? Is it pretty? You asked him, smiling. And after a couple moments of hesitance, he nodded shyly, blushing, and even has the courage to lean down and press a soft kiss to your piercing was. You're a bit stunned, and your breath hitches once his lips press your skin. But you can't help but be happy about it. Not to mention, and the affection that you got from Xiao was very good, and it was a lot of progress, considering how shy he is. Tighnari? Tighnari would be with you while you get the piercing. But the thing is, he would want to touch your piercing a lot, and kiss around it. He didn't prepare himself for that once he got it, of course. But once it was over with, you couldn't help but notice from the way he was holding you now that perhaps he enjoyed this a little bit too much. He pressed another soft kiss to your belly, trailing them all the way to your piercing, and looking up at you with a smile. You're so beautiful, Lion. Damn it, you're gorgeous. Oh, I know, I can certainly tell. You say, blushing brightly and laughing, and you can't help but laugh as well, chuckling as it wraps an arm around you, kissing your cheek. He was very affectionate with you, and that belly piercing? Well, it was bound to get you a lot more attention, even more so than it usually got, which was already a lot, by the way. Albedo, you wouldn't be able to show it to him if he was in Dragon's Pine. After all, it was very cold there. It wasn't like you could wear something that was so revealing. So once you went to Mondstadt, and he happened to spot the piercing, he was ogling at you. Wyan, when did you get that? Oh, this? Well, it's been a while. I've meant to show it to you, but... Wow. Could I... Could I touch it, please? He asks, a glint in his eyes that was very mischievous, and perhaps, had you noticed it earlier, it would not be as much of a blushing mess as you are right now. Because after he did that, he bent near the piercing, leaving a little bit of a bruise there, and kissed over it, grinning as he played with the piercing in his hand. You know, I never thought something like that would look so good on you. Perhaps you should get even more if you want, he said. And you couldn't help but laugh knowing he was just saying that because he would want you to wear something even more revealing, just so he could get to kiss you more. Cyno. Well, Cyno never really wore a shirt, so you'd think that maybe he wouldn't care too much if you were shirtless. Or just wearing a short shirt, a very tiny one. But he cared, because it was you, especially when there was that glowy piercing that you were using. It glinted in the sunlight, and you couldn't help but focus on it. And shyly, he asked you to come near, and he kept touching it with his hand, making you blush. And after a little bit of just trying to get used to the sight, and the feeling of it on your stomach, eventually, he leaned down, pressing a soft kiss to your belly. You look wonderful, Ryan. He blushed, giggling. And you look very fine, Cyno. You know, you could do more than a kiss, if that's what you want. And whether or not he does more truly depends on the day. But you could only hope.